Hey guys, how's it going? So today I thought we'd bake some cookies. Fall is an amazing time of year for cookies. I love cookies. Actually, any time of the year is good for cookies, but fall especially. You know, it seems like there are some dedicated things for fall: pumpkins, apples, gourds, squash, things of that nature. And I'm kind of pumpkined out. Now, don't get me wrong, I like pumpkin, but I thought today we would do some apple cookies. It's another cutout cookie, but this one is an apple butter cutout cookie, and they are incredible. I've been tweaking this recipe over the last few weeks to get it right, basically. And it's got a royal icing on it that's got a little bit of cinnamon in it, and then the cookie itself has some apple butter, and they are, I do believe, going to be delectable. Now, I have not tried this one yet. I couldn't quite get that apple flavor in, so I took the apple butter and I concentrated it way down to make it basically like a store-bought apple butter, because my apple butter is a little thinner and texture than, say, an apple butter you buy at the store, and I think it's going to work this time. But we're gonna find out for sure. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Glad you stopped by. Hope you get something out of this video. Hope you check out some of my other videos. Yeah, if you are returning or a new subscriber, welcome back and thank you. I appreciate that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comments. Always welcome. I respond to all of them. If you take the time to comment, I take the time to respond. That's only polite and only fair, right? All I ask with comments is you be polite. You know, it's okay to disagree. Just think before you type, right? Give you all your measurements in tablespoons, teaspoons, cups. I will also give them to you in grams and milliliters. That way everybody, no matter where you're at, can play along. So that being said, why don't we head on down here to the counter and we'll start making some apple butter cutouts. Hold on for me just 1 second. All right, we're down here to the counter. So things you will need for this: either a stand mixer or a hand mixer. I suppose you could even just use a bowl and a spoon for that matter, but I know I personally don't want to work that hard. My arms just can't, and hands can't take it anymore. So I'm going to use my stand mixer. If you're using a stand mixer, use your paddle attachment. You will need a bowl, you'll need a couple cookie sheets, some parchment paper, and an oven. And I highly recommend using a scale. You know, 20-30 bucks. Yeah, you're in good shape, right? And you're always accurate, and your measurements will always be, you know, more spot on. You know, when you use just a regular old measuring cup, a cup is not always a cup. It just depends on how packed whatever it is you're putting in it is. This way you get consistent flavor all the way around. But anyhow, enough of that lecture. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our dry goods together. In this bowl, I have small purpose flour. I've got 3.5 cups, 480 grams. I'm sorry, 4 cups, 480 grams. Whew. Of just regular old plain all-purpose flour. To that, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup, 30 grams of cornstarch. I have found with cutout cookies, cornstarch is the most amazing creature ever. It gives you, it allows you to adjust your firmness. If you want a more stiff, hardened cookie, you can add more cornstarch. If you want it a little softer, you add less. And I've been working very hard to get this to where I have just the right amount to where these cookies are soft, but not like fall apart in your hand soft, which is awesome. So now, to help with that softness, we're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of cream of tartar. Sorry, my brain just stopped. But we're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar, 1 gram, into that. And cream of tartar, I often wondered for years what cream of tartar did for anything, snickerdoodles, whatnot. Cream of tartar actually inhibits cookies from getting hard, from the flour completely getting crunchy. You know how you get those crisp edges, and sometimes it'll bleed into your cookie and make the whole thing crunchy? Cream of tartar stops that. It'll allow your edges to get crisp, but keep your center soft, which is awesome. The last thing we're going to add to this is a teaspoon of, it's essentially pumpkin spice, which is 2 grams. What is pumpkin spice? I know in my house, I know a lot of people that use pumpkin spice in their apple pies. They're essentially the same spices mixed together. You can vary them depending on what you like, but it's basically nutmeg, coriander, allspice, some cinnamon, ginger, things of that nature, fall spices. Put in to make your apple salt, your apple pie, your apple spice for your cutouts, also your pumpkin pie. But that being said, we're gonna go ahead and give this a good mix around. Got it mixed up, and we're gonna set it to the side. Now we can move on to our wet ingredients. Move my stand mixer over here, get it plugged in. So for our wet ingredients, first thing we're going to need in here is 3/4 cup, 171 grams, a stick and a half of unsalted butter. So, and you want it at room temperature. Now I cover mine in plastic so I can leave it, when I leave it out, it doesn't form a skin. The butter and cream cheese both love to form a skin on them when you leave them out to warm up. If you leave them out more than like 20 minutes, they'll start to form a skin, which is fine, but I just prefer not to have that skin, so I cover mine in saran wrap, plastic wrap. That way we don't have that issue. To this, I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, just plain old white granulated sugar. And then we are going to add, and that's 100 grams. And then I have got a 1/2 cup, 110 grams of light brown sugar. And I know it's in a bigger container, right? That's because this isn't packed because I weigh it out. But if you're putting it in a measuring cup, you want to push it down in the measuring cup. See how that just lost all its fluffiness? That's what you want. You want it to be packed, light brown sugar. 110 grams, 1/2 cup. So now that we got that in there, we are just simply going to turn this on, and we're going to mix it till it's combined, creamy, smooth, light and fluffy, if you will. All right, so we got that mixed, light and fluffy, so to speak. I mean, you're only going to get so much smoothness out of it, but you at least want light and fluffy because you're using sugar, and sugar doesn't dissolve by whipping it or beating it to a pulp, so to speak. But you will get light and fluffy. But first we want to scrape down our bowl a little bit, and I'll show you. So we got that is light and fluffy. It should have about the consistency of mashed potatoes, without all the lumps, so to speak. But go ahead and get that in there, and you want to scrape your bowl down. That's kind of a must. That way you got everything combined. You got no lumps. If you're at a stage where you might, here we won't, unless you're using your butter's not at room temperature, then you might have lumps of butter. All right, so next things we need to add to this, we are going to add 1 large egg, room temperature, 50 grams, like such. We are going to add a 1/2 cup of apple butter, which is 120 grams. And if you use homemade, depending on how thick you make your apple butter, I mean, I guess it should be, fairly consistent. See how that was just kind of plopped off there? I mean, I don't make my butter quite that thick, or at least I did in this last round, but I will going forward. But store-bought is kind of the perfect consistency for this, I guess you could say. So So we got those two things in there, and then the last thing I'm going to add to this is a half a teaspoon, 2 grams of vanilla. So we'll go ahead and get that in there, and then I'm going to mix this till they are just combined. All right, we have mixed until we're just combined. You want to be careful not to over mix. You don't want to overwork that egg. That can do funny things on a scientific level. So we'll go ahead and give this a good scrape. Now we can add our dry to this, just like such. And we're just going to mix this on low until it combines and forms our dough. And it'll start to scrape off the sides and gather onto your paddle attachment, or your spoon if you're using a spoon. Okay, so I got cleaned up a little bit, but our dough is made, and here I'll show it to you. Now I've got gloves on, that way I don't have to clean up my hands, but right there is our dough, and that's what it should look like when you stop mixing, right there. So now we're gonna take our dough, and we're just gonna wrap it in saran wrap and satin wrap, plastic wrap, whatever you want to call it, and let it sit in the fridge for about, I don't know, half hour at least. And all we're doing is we're just allowing the glutens and the flour and the egg and all that to just calm down a little bit. I'm going to shape it in a rectangle, because that's how I'm going to end up rolling it out. Just like such. Get it covered. And then, like I said, we're just going to put this in the fridge for about a half hour. You know, I mean, you can leave it in there for a day or two if need be, make your dough in advance. But for this, because I really want one of these cookies, half hour. So when I come back, we will move on to rolling them up, rolling it out, cutting them into circles, and getting them baked off. All right, I'll see you here in just 1 second. All right, so we went ahead, we let our dough chill in the oven for, it went about an hour or so, but what we're just leaving to do is let everything relax and calm down a little. We've been working those glutens, mixing it all together. So after I let it chill, I took it out of its wrap, and I just simply went ahead and cut it in half. And the reason why I did that was just to make it easier to roll out. I can't roll this whole thing out on here. My rolling pin won't work that well. Now, I roll mine out to 3/8 of an inch. So, this is probably the greatest rolling pin ever invented, in my opinion. It comes with washers that allow you to do different thicknesses. I actually have 2 of these, and I keep them each at the same thickness. I have one that's at 1/8 of an inch for pie crusts, and then I have this one that's at 3/8 of an inch for cookies. That way I know I get a nice standard same size cookie every time. But all I'm simply going to do is roll this into a rectangle. Now that I've got it nice out to 3/8 of an inch and somewhat of a rectangle form, I never claim to be perfect. Plus we're cutting them out. I mean, what does it matter what shape it? You can even do round for that matter. But you just want to get a nice even bit. And like I said, I go 3/8 of an inch. You can go thicker, you can go thinner, but it will help to determine how long you bake them for. Now I do have my oven preheating to 375 degrees, and I've got this 4 inch, but 3 3/4 inch round for cookie cutter. But you can do, you know, whatever you would like. I mean, they are apple butter, so you could cut these out into leaf shapes or apple shapes, or, you know, something that represents fall and apple butter season, so to speak, which would be just awesome. But I'm just going to do rounds. I'm going to take these into work with me and let these guys snack on them and hand a few out to the neighbors, because that's what we do. But I'm just simply going to get these cut out, and then I will bring my the dough I have right here and roll it back, ball it back up, and then roll it back out, and continue to do that. And as I cut them out, I'm putting them on a lined cookie sheet. You should get about 24, but I'll just continue to, re-roll my dough until we get all our cutouts out and use up all the dough, right? I'll see you here in a second. Okay, so we got our 24 rounds out, and well, actually I got 25. If you do 4-inch rounds per se, let's say you're not doing cutouts, you should get 24. But because mine's a little smaller than 4-inch, I got 25 with minimal scrap, not even enough to do one more cookie. So, and if these were just regular cutout cookies and not the apple butter ones, I would save that, but I don't think I'm gonna do a whole lot more apple butter cookies. So, and it was literally a ball about that big around, so I just went ahead and disposed of it. So now let me get my first round in the oven, and then we'll talk about how long to bake these for. Okay, so we got the first dozen in the oven, and we are at 375 preheated, right? So I'm gonna tell you 10 to 12 minutes. I know in my oven it's 10 minutes on the, or 11 minutes on the first batch, and 10 minutes on the second batch. Why that is, I don't know. But what we are looking for, it should be lightly golden brown around the edges, right? And then if you lift one up or pick one up, they should have a nice golden brown on the bottom. Not a dark golden brown, just a nice light golden brown. And I find that achieves the softest cookie. All right, so we got our first round out, and I want to show you that you're gonna let them cool on the pan for a couple minutes. This is actually really kind of hot. And after that couple minutes is up, we're gonna transfer them over to this wire rack to cool completely. But I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but see how it's got a nice golden brown there? And then if you look at the bottom, it's got, sorry, I was looking at my monitor to see if it actually shows. See how it's got that nice golden brown look there, but not so much in the center. And that's okay, because that's what's going to keep it soft there and a little crunchy on the outside. But you want that golden brown look, not a heavy dark, I mean, unless you like them like that, a little crunchier. But and then golden brown on the edges, still nice color on the top. And like I said, we're gonna let these cool for a couple minutes here on the pan, and then we'll transfer them to the rack to let them cool. Now, when you bake these, a lot of times people tell you to put cookies 2 inches apart. These you don't have to. I mean, you can put them as little, because as you can see, they didn't spread. They didn't, they're very good, solid. What you make it is what is going to stay cookie. But I'll let these cool after they're done baking. When I come back, I'll decide what kind of icing we're going to put on it, whether it be a royal icing or a frosting, and we'll make that up and get them iced. All right, I'll see you here in a second. Okay, so our cookies are cooled. They're way cooled. It's a nice day. Been a busy couple of days, but that's all right. So this will give us a chance to see how fresh they are. And oddly enough, half of them are missing. And I can tell you, it was not really me. I ate 2. And there's only 2 other people in my house at the moment. I'm not pointing fingers, but anyhow, we still got 12 of them we got to ice. But that tells you how good this cookie is that you don't even need to ice them. Icing is just like an added bonus. But like I said a few minutes ago in the video, I wasn't sure if we were going to do a royal icing or a frosting. I decided on a frosting, but we're going to do a apple butter frosting. Now, I am only going to do half the recipe because I cut the recipe in half because I've only got half the cookies. So, but down in the description below for ingredients, I'm going to go ahead and put the full recipe on there, so that way you can follow those amounts. It's not hard versus what I'm doing here, unless of course you only, you would need them for a full 24 anyhow. But anyhow, why don't we go ahead and get started on this. First thing I've got in my mixer is a half a cup, 1 stick, 114 grams of unsalted butter. And I'm going to go ahead and get this creamed up really good. All right, we got our butter creamed. And if this is the first time we've ever made icing, which is a possibility, we get new people all the time on here. To cream your butter basically means you're taking it from a stick and you're just beating it up so it kind of looks like mashed potatoes. And as you can see, the butter is not yellow anymore, it's white. So that's kind of like making things light and fluffy. You will hear that a lot also in the world of baking. So we got that done. got it off the sides there because we don't want it on the sides. And we only got 3 more quick, easy ingredients to go. We're about to put 2 of them in now. And the next 2 things to go in our icing, our icing, is I have an eighth of a cup, half a quarter a cup of apple butter, which is 70 grams. Now, like I said, if you're doing this for the 24 that we just made a second ago, you would be at 1 cup of butter, 228 grams, a quarter cup of apple butter at 140 grams. And then the last thing we want to put in here for this round, as soon as I get all that apple butter out of there, is going to be 1 tablespoon, 15 milliliters of apple cider. So, or whole would be, I hope I'm not confusing you, whole would be 2 tablespoons, 30 milliliters. And we're going to go ahead and get that in there. So now we're going to go ahead and just combine all this, mix it until everything's combined. Okay, so we've got everything combined in there. We got our apple butter, and our apple cider in there. Now let's say you don't have apple cider, because it only takes a couple of tablespoons. And if you're not one who drinks apple cider, you can just use regular apple juice. The flavor won't be quite as strong, but you got that apple butter in there, so it's okay. And or you can just use milk. It's just to help kind of give a certain amount of density, a particular density to the cream or to the icing. So the next thing we got to put in here is I've got 2.5 cups, 300 grams of powdered sugar, confectioner sugar, and we're going to put this in. We're going to put it in a cup at a time. Now, when you first start your mixer, start it on low until everything kind of gets wet in there, and then you can turn it up. If not, you will have a face full of powdered sugar. But I'm going to go ahead and get this in there, and yeah. Okay, so we got our icing mix. Now, one thing I didn't mention was once you get your last little bit of powdered sugar in there, your half a cup, kick that bad boy up a little bit, your mixer up a little bit to like a medium high. Unlike cake icing where you wanted to kind of do it slowly, that way you don't incorporate a lot of air. I like to incorporate a lot of air for the frosting for my cookies and my cupcakes. I think it gives it a good flavor profile texture profile for cakes and cookies. But there is pretty much where we want to be, right there. And I may have accidentally tried some, and I might be able to tell you that, oh my goodness, this is an amazing icing. But instead of just slapping it on the cookies, which you could do, you could just take a spoon or whatever and put them, put a big clump in the center and then spread it out. I'm going to go ahead and put it in a piping bag, so that way I can get a little more consistency on how much I'm putting on each one. Make sure that I got enough, because it looks like I'm going to have more than enough for the 12 I have. All right, we are in the piping bag and going through. So now I'm literally just going to take and put a dollop in the center of each one. And like I said, if I have leftover icing, that's okay. I can use it on 1,000,001 things. This can be a snack for graham crackers for kids. You can put this on apples. If you like to dip your apples in like the caramel sauce, this would be just as good with it. You can put it on toast, for that matter. Eat it just like apple butter, I would think. Or there's just really a lot you could do with it. Or make some more cookies. But you can freeze this too. Let's say you have a fair amount left over, like I have a good amount left over for half batching it. I can save that. I'll put it in the freezer. It's good for 2 months in the freezer. And then let's say I bake a cake and want to use that on it, I can. Or cupcakes. I make cupcakes and I'll put that icing on it, I can. If you go to let it thaw in your fridge. Take it from the freezer to the fridge, and let it thaw overnight. You'll have to do some advanced planning. So now that I got my dollop on there, right, because I want this, I mean, you can make your icing as thick as you want, but I want it somewhat thin. So I'm just going to take an offset spatula or just a knife if that's all you have. And we'll do this first one to see if I have enough icing on them, which I may put a little more on them, never know. But we're just going to spread this out on all 12, well, the 12 I have remaining, 24 if you make them. And then that way we can try one. Alright, so I got them all iced. And then I went ahead, as you just saw, and dolloped a little bit of apple butter in the middle of them. I thought that just would look nice. And I mean, these things are all things apple butter. So now all we have left to do really is try one, right? As soon as I get my camera adjusted so that way I can see you. I mean, I know you probably don't want to look at my ugly mug, but I love to see you guys when I'm talking to you. But anyhow, let's try one of these bad boys. Yeah. That. Hoo-wee. That is a good cookie. And the apple butter is just perfect. It's not screaming at you, but it definitely lets you know it's there. But I want you to see how soft those cookies are. You know, that's after about a day and a half. And these cookies, as long as you keep them in like a freezer baggie or a Ziploc baggie, uniced, you know, well, even iced, but uniced will stay soft like that for about 2-3 weeks. And you can freeze them. These, you can leave these set out the way they are for about 2-3 days. But I would recommend refrigerating them. You can have them for a couple weeks that way. You know, that way you can put them in advance for a party or, you know, give you something to snack on. And I guarantee they'll be just as good refrigerated as they are thawed or out at room temperature. Or, I mean, you can take a half dozen at a time. However you want to do it, but the options are there. Give these a try. Let me know if you do. Next week, I'm not sure what we're doing for dinners, but sorry, don't want to talk with my mouth completely full of cookie. We are going to do a couple requests. We are going to get that water pie taken care of, and then I was asked about a eggless dessert, something that's nice, something that's rich, you know, decadent, that we could do without egg. I thought, sure, why not? This would be fun, you know, give it a try. I'm sure there's plenty of things, but I've been looking at some stuff and I'm not quite sure which one I want to do yet, but we're going to do something that's eggless at any rate. So we got water pie coming up, and which I think you guys are going to find fascinating. Truth be told, I've made a couple of them and I'm struggling with it a little bit, but I want to give you guys a recipe that will be solid, and then I'll tell you about my failures. But I'll get it figured out yet. You know, don't give up on me. So, but anyhow, give these cookies a try. That's what we're talking about today. And let me know if you do down in the comments below, or, you know, over on Facebook at the group. I've been trying my best to get on there at least a couple times a week. But comments through YouTube is usually probably the best way to get a hold of me, or Instagram. You know, Messenger, things like that are always good. Facebook just seems to be my one Achilles heel. But anyhow, until next week for dinner, I love you. I love you very much, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else you love them and love them very much. They may need to hear it. It's going to make them smile either way it goes. It's going to make you feel good and smile to tell them that. And if you give them one of these apple butter cookies, I guarantee they're going to grin ear to ear. You know, you could add a cup of milk or a cup of coffee with these and have an evening of conversation. All right, so I will see you next week for dinner. All right, till then, I love you, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.